Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is literally a film I've had for years and years and never watched it, only to be readjusted on my shelves with new additions. It's a film that I've seen on like a ton of like best of lists, and I picked it up a long time ago on a Black Friday sale, I think. I mean, it's easily been over like 6 or 7 years since I've had it. Like, I think I got this before me and my wife even first started dating. It's been a while to reuse that same joke. It's been a while. The film is from 1939, starring James Stewart as Mr. Smith, who ends up going to Washington after a senator dies, and the governor appoints him, with him hoping that Mr. Smith will be a good Ponzi to help pass some bills that will help line the pockets of the corrupt politicians. The film is directed by Frank Capra, who is a director I've heard a lot of good things about, and you know what, this may be a hot take, but I found this film to be super boring. Like, on paper you have corrupt politicians trying to get their way and a genuine good dude duking it out against the senators and their fat cats, but the way the story is just told is just so flat and boring. It could just be the era of the film when the film was made, but there just isn't much happening, and it's got a really predictable plot. James Stewart as Jefferson Smith just felt like a caricature. Jean Arthur and her character Saunders I just found to be consistently annoying throughout the film. The only performance I thought stood out was Claude Rains as Senator Joseph Payne, who was probably the most complex character of the film. There's just nothing here that sparks any interest in me. The camera work is fine, but it's nothing interesting. The acting is middling, the music is hokey, and I could have easily have fallen asleep for like 40 minutes of the runtime and woken up to know exactly what is happening and where I'm at in the film. Like, I was no joke fighting sleeping during the film, and after finishing it, I totally could have just went to sleep. Been fine. I was pretty interested in the setup, but once Mr. Smith got to Washington, that's when I started to lose interest, and I personally never got it back. Like, wow, look at America and the American dream. We gotta fight for what's right, everybody. I do think it's funny though, looking back, like pretty much forever the bad guys are almost always like somebody who's the head of a corporation or like a politician or just the government. Like, the whole tone of standing up against corruption and the corporate machine is just tackled in such a corny way with no wit, humor, or grit. It's just a stale gas station nacho cheese that does nothing for me. I understand going into films that are this old, you have to have a certain understanding of what the time was like and how stories were told. There's a different feel to the films and performances and even pacing. But when there's other films from this era that are more engaging and more interesting in its presentation, it just makes something like this hard to sit through. It never really falters to incompetence, but it's just so boring and bland. I went on to IMDb to read some of the user reviews to see why others love this film so much, and yeah, I agree it's cheesy, but I didn't find this inspirational, charming, or effective enough to drive home its points on corruption and hope, basically because it's just so steeped in that cornball nature. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get this movie. I don't get why this, I don't get it. I don't get it. This one's going in the sell pile for sure. It's a 3 out of 10 for me, dog.